Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Not So Great Deck Monday, where we take not so great decks and put them to the test. With the release of Guardians Rising, I think it's good to look back on some of the cards that can impact this current format. And in this instance, we're going to be looking back at Lurantis GX. With so much energy denial decks and cards like Trashalanche Garbodor running rampant in the format, I think it's pretty good to have a Pokemon that can set up energy and retrieve energy without having to burn through the deck pretty quickly when compared to something like Darkrai or Volcanion. So with Lurantis, you have Flower Supply, which does 40 damage and lets you attach 2 energy cards from your discard pile to any of your Pokemon in any way you like. 2 basic energy, just for clarification purposes. So with that, we can attach Lurantis. So if we run into decks like Sylveon, we can just constantly power up ourselves with Flower Supply, and we almost never lose that matchup. Against other decks, we can power up things like Drampa, our second attacker, to deal a massive amount of damage. So this also helps against Garbodor, because we don't have to play too many cards like Max Elixir or Ultra Ball or Trainer's Mail to retrieve the energy that we get into our discard pile. So I think this deck is pretty good in the current format. Lurantis also has Solar Blade, which does 120 damage, which is enough to knock out a Garbodor, just FYI. And you heal 30 damage from Lurantis. So using this attack, we're not only taking knockouts against Garbodor, but we're healing the damage that they can do to us with that Solar Blade. Lurantis also has Chlorocythe GX, which does 50 for every grass energy attached to Lurantis GX. This allows us to hit some higher numbers, like against an Espeon GX or any really any other GXs with 200 or 210 HP. We can use Chlorocythe with the 3 or 4 energies with the Choice Band to knock out most of those. So it's a pretty interesting attack to deal with. We also do play one Drampa GX with the Righteous Edge attack, which will allow us to discard our opponent's special energies, and of course the big bad Berserker attack, which does 150 damage, or does 80 plus 70 more if I have damage counters on my bench Pokemon. And with Lurantis having 210 HP, more than likely I'm going to have that damage on our bench. There's also Big Will GX, which lets us shuffle in our hand to our deck and draw 10 cards. We do play one Tauros. This is just so we can Ninja Boy in and out of the active position and use Mad Bull GX if ever needed. It also could be a wall that we can use to set up just for a few turns. Some of the key cards we play in this deck are, of course, Choice Band, which deals 30 more damage to Pokemon EX and GX, and Energy Switch, which allows us to move around at my basic grass energies. We can use this to set up multiple Drampa or set up a Chlorocythe, for 200 damage by moving those energies around. We do play one copy of Parallel City, and we can use this to both mitigate damage from our opponent's Pokemon and discard damaged Pokemon from our bench if ever necessary. We also play 2 Forest Giant Plants, which we can use to evolve into Lurantis right away. We do play the typical, 4 Sycamore, 3 N. We are playing 3 Lysander. We could change the 3rd Lysander out for something else, but this has been the list I've been testing. I think recently maybe I considered a Pokemon Center Lady. That might be another option to consider there. We do play 1 Hex Maniac, which is probably one of my favorite cards in this format, and 1 Olympia, which will help us also heal off some of that damage when combined with Solar Blade. We do play 4 Double Colorless Energy and 9 Grass. With that, we'll jump into a few games with Lurantis GX and Drampa. On to game number 1. Looks like we'll be starting with a Shaman EX. Not the best starter, obviously. And if you can hear the train in the background, my bad. Looks like my opponent's playing Espeon Probably Garbodor also. Looking from the preview that y'all didn't get to see, but more than likely Garbodor. So we will take this mulligan, yes. And we have no draw supporter in our hand. Hexmaniac, Lysander, Olympia. We are not off to the best start here. I guess the best we can do really is attach to the Shaman. Let's bring up that Trubbish and attach the Shaman. We'll pass our turn onto my opponent. That training might be too loud. So we see an energy going onto the Trubbish. And an acid spray. Doing 10 damage. Flipping tails. We're going to keep our energy for the turn. And we do have an N. So I'll go ahead and attach this choice band. And get a fresh hand of 6 cards for both of me and my opponent. And we do have Drampa and Fomantis to put down into play this turn. So you can go ahead and do that. I can Sky Return this Shaman back into my hand and set it up once again. So I'll go ahead and do that. Sky Return probably promotes the Fomantis. I shouldn't be able to get knocked out this turn unless my opponent evolves into Garbodor and attaches to double colorless and acid sprays for 70. But just with the 1 energy right now, it should be okay. So we do see a Float Stone going on to Trubbish and evolve into Garbodor with that Trash Avalanche attack. Once again, we won't be able to get knocked out this turn unless my opponent played a double colorless. But they're just going to retreat into Drampa and hit us for 20 damage. We do see an N. Going to put back that Shaman back into my deck. We do have Force Giant Plants, an Ultra Ball to get us a Lurantis GX. We'll just see a Righteous Edge for 20 damage. Here we can Ultra Ball, discard a Grass Energy, and we don't need to switch this turn. And we can go ahead and grab a Lurantis GX here. We'll go ahead and put that into play. Attach the Choice Band. Put down the Forest of Giant Plants. Attach the Grass Energy and Sycamore. We do have an Ultra Ball. I think we can hold on to that one for now. We could play a Field Blower, but we'll just go ahead and Flower Supply for 70 damage with the Choice Band. Attach it, Grass Energy onto my Lurantis and set up for that Solar Blade next turn. Onto my opponent's turn here, so we'll see what they can get. If my opponent does have a double colorless, they can Berserk for 180 because there is damage on that Garbodor on the bench. That'd be a lot of damage to deal with right now, but we should be able to get the return KO with the Solar Blade if that is the case. Or my opponent can bring up my bench Drampa and take a knockout that way and take 2 prizes. So we'll see what my opponent's going for. We see an Ultra Ball grabbing a Shaman EX from their deck, a VS Seeker. Gonna go ahead and bring up that Drampa. So my opponent is going for the knockout this turn. A Super Rod. Gonna put back that 1 Psychic Energy. A bit unfortunate that that's what they used it on. You will typically want to wait, a little bit longer to play your Super Rod. We see a Lysander, bring up that Drampa GX, and a setup for 4 cards. Does my opponent hit the double colorless for the knockout this turn? We do see another Trubbish. But do we see a double colorless? Nope, we just see another attachment onto the bench Trubbish. And more than likely we'll just see another Righteous Edge this turn. We do have the switch in hand, which is really good. We just need a Grass Energy. So I can go ahead and Ultra Ball, discarding the Force Giant Plant since we already have one in play. And this Hex Maniac Not really going to do a whole bunch for me this coming turn. Oh no, I'll actually discard the energy switch. Here we'll grab Shaman. We can drop the Drampa into play. Switch Field Blower, discard the Float Stone and the Choice Band. We can switch back into Lurantis and set up for 4 cards. Here we're trying to hit a Grass Energy, which we do hit, which is great. I'll go ahead and play Hex Maniac so my opponent can't use, Tapu Lele or a Shaman to set up next turn. And we see a Solar Blade for 150 damage, healing 30 or 20 that was on my Lurantis, and taking 2 prizes, going down to 4 prize cards. We do have 5 items in play, so the Trash Lance this turn will max out at 130 damage if my opponent has a Choice Band. So we'll see if that's the case. So my opponent, thinking about what to do, probably checking my discard pile to see how many items we've played. But so far so good. My opponent won't be able to take a knockout on anything besides that Shaman this turn. They're going to bring up my Drampa, try to force me to have energies to retreat, or maybe get it stuck active, but we do have Floatstone in hand, which is pretty good. So I can go ahead and attach the Floatstone to the active Drampa, put an energy on the bench Drampa, retreat into the Lurantis, and we can go ahead and hold these cards. And I think it's just best to Solar Blade this turn. So I can Solar Blade, take another knockout on this Garbodor, going down to 3 prize cards, grabbing an N off the prizes. So again, we still only have a few items in our discard pile. We had 6 items. I misspoke earlier. We had 6 items in our discard pile. So Trash Lance only going to be hitting for 120 damage. With the Choice Band, they can hit 150. But again, that's not enough to knock out Lurantis. So we see an Ultra Ball. This can allow my opponent to grab another Shaman or perhaps a Tapu Lele. So we do see that Tapu Lele. My opponent will be able to use that Wonder Tag ability to search their deck for a supporter card and put it into their hand. We see a Floatstone onto Shaman, a Wonder Tag going to grab a supporter out of my opponent's deck. More than likely we're going to see either an N or a Sycamore, but it is the N. My opponent's going to end me down to 3 cards while they get to draw 6. We do have Parallel City. We can use that to bump some of our damaged Pokemon off the bench if needed. We do see an Altar of the Moon hit the field, which will give that Garbodor 2 lesser tree cost. But more than likely it's going to be attacking this turn with Trash Lance. So we do see a Trash Lance for 120 damage. Back onto my turn. Here I can Ultra Ball. I think I want Ultra Ball to grab another Pokemon so I can play the Parallel City to remove one of my Drampas, but then I don't have a supporter card if I do that. I guess that's alright. Here we'll grab a second Fomantis, put down the Fomantis, and then Sycamore. We do have another energy attachment for the turn. We can start powering up a Drampa again, maybe attach the Fomantis, setting up for a Lurantis GX the next turn. But I think it's safe enough to go ahead and attach to this Drampa. And then we can Solar Blade, healing 30 damage from this Lurantis. So we'll go ahead and Solar Blade, heal 30 damage, do 120 to the Garbodor, go down to 2 prize cards. So right now, Tapu Lele should only be able to do 100 damage if they attach a Psychic, or 120 if they attach a double colorless. 120 will be able to knock out my Pokemon here. So that's a bit unfortunate. But we're in a pretty good position board-wise to take this game. If I can find a choice band in the coming turn, I will be able to knock out this Tapu Lele and take my last two prizes. But we do get end down to 2 cards. We do see an Ultra Ball. So we can Ultra Ball for Shaman that was just put back off of that end. So we'll draw a card off the top of the deck, and then we can Ultra Ball for Shaman. Hopefully hit the choice band. We do see a Field Blower discarding my Float Stone. Makes it a little bit more risky next turn, or at the end of this turn when I have to promote my Drampa. Taking away my free retreat option there. So what does my opponent do? More than likely we're just going to see an Energy Drive. 420 damage, taking the knockout. My opponent will take their first 2 prize cards. Yeah, so we'll see that. Energy Drive for 120 damage. My opponent will take their first 2 prize cards of the game. And now we just have to hit a choice band. And I know we do have Shaman in the deck, so we can go ahead and go for that. So we can Ultra Ball, discard the 2 cards in my hand, and grab a Shaman EX. We'll go ahead and set up, drawing 6 new cards, and we do see the choice band off the top of the deck. So we can go ahead and take this game number 1 here. Well played. And we'll see a Berserk for 180 damage, taking the knockout onto Lurantis. Or not Lurantis, Lele, sorry. So that was it for game number 1. Pretty good game. Shows what this deck can really do. We'll go ahead and jump into game 2 momentarily. On to game number 2. Playing against TCGO Share 05. Playing another Psychic Colorless deck. So more than likely, if you've been online recently, you know there is a ton of Garbodor decks floating around out there. Almost every other match has been against Garbodor. So once again, we're starting with a Shaman. For game number 1 and game number 2, Shaman came out to play. Now once again, we have no draw supporter in hand, but we do have my opponent Mulligan here. So looking at those cards, we can it's pretty safe to assume that my opponent is playing Garbodor. Which variant of the Garbodor, we're not too sure yet. Last game, we did see my opponent playing Espeon GX. So yes, we'll go ahead and draw a card. We do see that Rainbow Rare, or Hyper Rare, Rainbow Rare, whatever you want to call it, Tapu Lele GX start, and a Full Art Ultra Ball, discarding an Ultra Ball and a VS Seeker. Probably going to grab either a Trubbish or maybe another Lele. Oh, it is a Drampa. So this is another variant of that deck where they do play Drampa instead of as a secondary attacker instead of something like Espeon. So we see an energy onto Drampa, and they do play the Magma Stadium to power up Berserk without having to take any actual damage from an attack. So once again, we'll see another Hexmaniac turn 1. And the energy attachment onto Shaman. We see another energy onto Tapu Lele. And a retreat into Drampa. And we'll see a Big Bull GX. Unfortunate, my opponent had to use their GX attack so early in the game. But we take those. And once again, we don't have much in our hand. Here we're risking just a little bit, playing a little bit risky. Gotta pull up that Lele with the Lysander. If my opponent had drawn a double colorless and another Pokemon, they could have easily taken that game. So there's a Trubbish. There's a second Trubbish. Did my opponent have the double colorless? Oh, just another Psychic Energy onto Tapu Lele. And a pass onto my turn. Okay. So here, I can retreat into Drampa, energy switch, and attach a choice band to deal 50 damage to this Tapu Lele. It's not much, but it's a start. Actually, I'm going to big ol' GX myself here. Get a fresh hand of 10. Off this, not the best hand here. We see a couple of Sycamore, a Ninja Boy, Choice Band. But we do have a Fomantis, so that's something. There's only one item in our discard pile, so Garbodor's not doing any damage. And we do see an evolve into Garbodor, a double colorless going on to Drampa, a second Garbotoxin Garbodor coming into play. And will we see a retreat into Drampa? A Skyla. What are they going to grab with that Skyla here? A Choice Band. Okay. Choice Band onto the Drampa. And we'll see a retreat and a Berserk for 180 damage. So we have almost nothing to work with here. Oh geez. We'll see a Ninja Boy. Go ahead and switch out my Shaman for a Fomantis. And evolve into Lurantis GX. An energy attachment for the turn. Here I can go ahead and put down the second Fomantis. And I think we'll just go ahead and Flower Supply here. I can't really play any more cards besides that. I could put the Choice Band down, but I think for now we can just hold on to it. We'll Flower Supply for 70 damage. Attach an energy onto Lurantis GX. And we'll attach a second energy onto Lurantis also. So despite our rocky start, we're in a decent position. We can't get knocked out by this Drampa. Garbodor can't do much damage either. So let's see what my opponent does here. One option they have is to bring up my Fomantis and knock it out. We do see a third Trubbish hit the field. And a Float Stone onto that Garbotoxin. Gonna negate all abilities for the rest of the game. Unless I can hit Field Blower. And we see an N. My opponent drawing 4 cards, I'll be drawing 6. We do have another Fomantis and an energy attachment to use. And here we'll just see a Berserk for 180 damage. So here I think I will Olympia. And then I can use Synthesis if necessary. And set up a second. Okay, I'll just retreat and heal damage with Solar Blade. I'm still in the knockout range if that Tapu Lele can find a double colors energy, but I don't have much else to do. So does my opponent find a double colors energy? Trash Launch will only be doing 20 damage. We do see a Super Rod, gonna put back that Drampa, or 3 Psychic Energies, oh wow. My opponent not putting back that Drampa, interesting choice. But can my opponent find a double colors energy to knock out my Lurantis? Or we see a Sycamore here, discarding Sycamore, Bridget, Float Stone. And nope, guess my opponent did not hit that double colorless. Since that was such a short game, we'll go ahead and add a third game here. See for that in a moment. So welcome to a rare game 3. We are playing against a Water, Fire, Psychic, colorless deck. More than likely Volcanion. This matchup is not the best matchup we could have hoped for. Volcanion can one-shot basically any Pokemon in my deck, especially Lurantis's. We do start with Fomantis and an N. We do get to go first, which is okay. But yeah. The power of Steam Up and Power Heater can easily overwhelm all of my grass Pokemon, and it's really unfortunate that this is a matchup that I have to play. But hopefully, this is a matchup that doesn't happen too often anymore. I hope Greninja becomes more popular, just so I don't have to deal with this matchup too often. So we see double colors onto Tauros and an N for myself. I do have a Forest of Giant Plants. I can get a Lurantis into play this turn if I really wanted to. I think I'll just hold on to that card. And yeah, on to my opponent's turn. Like I said, they can easily knock us out with Power Heater. It's already doing 40 damage. My opponent has to end. No Volcanion EX just yet. I do have Lurantis. I do have Parallel City. Parallel City could be very helpful in this matchup. Oh, no Volcanion EX at all. Okay. I did not expect this Romantis to live the turn, but we will take that and run with it. So I can evolve into Lurantis GX. I'll play Parallel City to limit myself down to 3, but mostly to limit my opponent's damage by 20. Reduce my opponent's damage by 20, I should say. My opponent didn't play many cards out of their hand, so I'm not going to end them. I'll just solo it for 40, get another energy into play, attach it to the Drampa. Okay. So if my opponent can't get down a Volcanion this turn, there's Volcanion. Never mind. So, hopefully, my opponent can't do too much to the Lurantis. I don't want to see too many steam ups this turn. This matchup could get ugly pretty quickly if my opponent is able to get off 2 or 3 steam ups this turn. So we'll see a Power Heater for 60 damage, reduced by 20 thanks to that Parallel City. I do have a second Lurantis I can get into play. I can Ultra Ball, discard a Grass Energy, and probably the Fomantis. I don't think having 3 Lurantises will be the best idea. I'm going to go ahead and switch into a fresh Lurantis and start using Flower Supply with that one. Continue powering up my Drampa. Yeah, so we'll attach another Grass Energy onto Drampa, cycling between these 2 Lurantises until my opponent can Volcanic Heat one of them and knock it out. Here we do see a Hoopa EX using its Scoundrelling ability. More than likely going to find my opponent a few Volcanions, maybe a Shaman. So let's see what my opponent can grab here. We just see 1 Volcanion. Wow. So perhaps my opponent prized the Volcanion, or there's one in hand. I would assume they'd grab a Shaman if they're able to empty out a few cards in their hand, but yeah, it's a little bit surprising. We do see a Via Seeker for an N. So my opponent off to the best beginning few turns here. Normally this matchup, if my opponent can set up, Volcanion like Volcanion usually does, this matchup is not close at all. But we've been pretty lucky. More than likely my opponent prized the Volcanion, maybe prized a Shaman or 2. And we see 2 Steam Ups. Going to power up that Power Heater, doing 120 damage. And my opponent will be able to retrieve those 2 energies back onto their bench Volcanion EXs. So I'll Olympia here out of the active position into Tauros. I'll attach a Grass Energy onto the Lurantis, just in case I need a Solar or Chlorocythe in the future. And we'll see a Horn Attack for 60 damage, knocking out that active Volcanion and onto my opponent's turn. So with only 2 Volcanions in play, it's still very likely that this Tauros gets knocked out, especially if my opponent plays Choice Band. We do see a second baby Volcanion hit the field. More than likely we'll see an N or a Sycamore here. Yeah, Sycamore. Does my opponent have the energy to use Steam Up or Choice Band? There is a Choice Band, okay. Now do they have the 2 energy necessary to knock me out? There's one of them. Can my opponent Steam Up to knock out those Tauros? We see a Max Elixir. I believe that's the second Max Elixir they have played. Attaching it onto the benched baby Volcanion. Do we see a Steam Up or not? If my opponent doesn't Steam Up, they can't knock out this Tauros. Oh, I guess that's the case. If my opponent had hit me with the Volcanion, I would have been able to Mad Bull GX for the knockout. Now that I played the Hex Maniac, I'm ensuring that my opponent can't one-shot me next turn. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. So I guess my opponent did miss the energy. And they didn't want to use Volcanic Heat and leave me open to Mad Bull their active Volcanion. So we'll see a Lysander bringing up my Lurantis. Going to be able to use Volcanic Heat and one-shot it. Gonna do like 280 damage. So 130 plus 30 for the Choice Band times 2. Oy. So I do have a damage on my bench, so I will be able to use Berserk to knock out this active Volcanion. Then it comes down to, can my opponent knock out my Drampa? Here I'll move the energy off of the damaged Lurantis, attach the double colors onto the second Drampa, and we'll just see an N. I don't want to play any of these cards out of my hand. I could attach Floatstone just so I have free retreat if my opponent knocks me out for somehow. And we'll see a Berserk. We do have 3 VS Seekers in our hand. This will allow me to chain Hex Maniac in the following turns, and hopefully be able to take some knockouts that way. Or I could Hex Maniac one turn, then Lysander the second, and hopefully take the game like that also. So we've seen the Choice Band onto Volcanion. More than likely we'll see another, we'll see an Ultra Ball here. If my opponent prized Volcanions or Shaman and got it off the prizes with their last knockout, they can grab that Pokemon this turn. So we do see a Fisherman and a Fire Energy hit the discard pile. And let's see what my opponent grabs. More than likely, it'd probably be a Shaman if it's in the deck. Yeah, so there is a Shaman. Surprisingly, my opponent didn't grab that with the Hoopa earlier in the game, so that probably tells me that my opponent prized the Shaman, and probably, the 3rd or 4th Volcanion also. So we do see a setup, drawing 4 cards, I believe, and Floatstone onto the bench Hoopa. Does my opponent have the necessary energy to attack? There is a second Shaman. So unless both of my opponent's prizes were Shaman, I think my opponent just decided not to grab the Shaman. If I remember correctly, their hand was pretty full, so if they couldn't play down their hand, I can understand that play also. So we do see an energy retrieval. This will allow my opponent to use Steam Up and knock out this active Drampa. This is why it's such a scary matchup. Typically we don't like being one-shot by anything, but we do see a Steam Up. Alright, no one likes getting one-shot by anything, but especially in this matchup where it's so easy because I have the weakness to fire, and then the Choice Band makes Volcanion hit ridiculously high numbers. But we do see a VS Seeker for a Lysander. I believe my opponent is sparing my active Drampa. That's quite interesting. Berserk won't be able to take a knockout this turn because I have no more damage on the bench. But I think Drampa was the bigger threat here. So I'll promote that Drampa. I do have a Choice Band in hand. Here I can attach a Choice Band, and I can go for that play I was talking about earlier. I can chain these Hex Maniacs, ensuring that my opponent cannot one-shot my Pokemon. So I'll play a Hex Maniac. And I will Berserk for 110 damage. Okay. So unless my opponent retreats, they won't be able to attack because of Volcanic Heat won't allow them to. We do see a second energy going onto that bench Volcanion. So more than likely we'll see a Power Heater to cycle the energy, also sparing the active Volcanion from a knockout. So more than likely we'll see a retreat, discarding all 3 fire energies. If my opponent can't play Floatstone or an Olympia, unless they have Olympia, that'd be cool. But I haven't seen Olympia hit the field just yet. So VS Seeker, more than likely gonna grab what's that? A Fisherman, okay. I'm not too sure what that will do for my opponent. They can't Steam Up this turn. I don't think I agree with that play too much, but, you know. I think for your opponent, the best option would be to N again. But then they go down to 2 cards in hand, and it becomes a little bit messy after that. So we'll see a Power Heater. I see a second Volcanion EX hit the field and a Power Heater. Because of my Peril City has yet to be removed from play, it actually does 0 damage, which is pretty cool. So here I have the option, again, I can cycle the Hex Maniac, or I can actually bring up that Volcanion and go down to 1 prize card. I think this play is a little bit safer. I wouldn't have been able to knock out that active Volcanion either way. So I'll go ahead and do that. I'll bring up the bench Volcanion and Berserk for the knockout, doing 110 damage. My opponent is now free to use Steam Up. But to knock out my Drampa, you would need a Max Elixir attachment for the turn, Choice Band, and a Steam Up. Which is very doable. My opponent, still has a couple of Max Elixirs left in the deck, assuming they play 4, or maybe they only play 3. Then it gets a little bit more, a little bit less intimidating of a situation if they play 3. So let's see here. Ultra Ball, probably going to look for, okay, there's the 4th Volcanion EX. Once again, not sure if they are prized or if my opponent just didn't want to grab them at the time with the Hoopa. More than likely they were prized though. But this will allow my opponent to Steam Up and do quite a bit of damage to this Drampa, if not knock it out. Once again, my opponent needs a Max Elixir, Energy Attachment for the turn, and a Steam Up. Max Elixir, Energy Attachment for Steam Up, and a Choice Band. So, we did see the Energy Attachment for the turn. If my opponent can't end me either, I do have the game by Lysandering up a Shaman, assuming my opponent can't knock me out. We see 1 Steam Up number 2. I guess my opponent doesn't have the Max Elixir in hand. We'll see Retreat into Hoopa, or Retreat from Hoopa, and an N. So my opponent won't be able to knock me out this turn, and I did draw the Lysander, so that is game. I'll just wait for my opponent to attack before I send the Well Played. Power Heater for 60 damage. Well played. And we have the Lysander for game. We can bring up one of those bench Shaman EXs and knock them out with Berserk because of Choice Band. So Choice Band for 30 damage plus Berserk 80 is just enough to knock out a Shaman. So that was game number 3, a pretty intense game. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching this edition of Not So Great Deck Monday. See you guys next time.